I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's 9 o'clock. Mr. Bramble, will you call the roll, please?
Okay, Terry Conley. Terry Conley. Emily Crapo. Dave Patterson. Duke Bennett.
Here.
John Marvel.
Here.
Chris Schweitzer.
Here.
Steve Witt. Here.
Full complement this morning. Thank you, board members, for being here. This is the September 15th meeting of the Vigo County Capital Improvement Board. Are there any additions or revisions to today's agenda? Hearing none. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from the August 18th meeting?
I move we accept the August 18th minutes as presented.
Second.
The Dave Patterson has moved to accept, and Chris Schweitzer has seconded the motion to approve the minutes. Call the roll, please.
Terry Conley.
Aye.
Emily Crapo.
Aye.
Dave Patterson.
Aye.
Duke Bennett.
Aye.
John Marvel.
Aye.
Chris Schweitzer.
Aye.
Steve Witt.
An update on construction progress. This is item number 5.1 actually, with Brian Koister of Garmong. Good morning, Brian.
Provide an overview of progress over the past month. First, we'll start with budget. Current GMP amount, $46,996.59. This reflects one change over the last period, which was change order number 12, $38,009. Reflected line modifications in the budget. Schedule, budget remains on schedule or ahead of schedule, depending on how you look at it. You'll remember the original substantial completion date was April 27, 22. We have moved that up. March 1st, 22. Some recent progress. Overall, really happy with the progress.
Will you turn your mic on?
Overall, really happy with the progress, really in and around the building, as well as the parking garage. I was telling somebody before the meeting, would have liked to see more progress on exterior hardscape and the connector. Ran into a couple challenges there, but both of which have been overcome, and work is progressing on that, and we're going to catch up on that. So no issues related to the schedule, just really impact on my mental health and blood pressure, but all is well there. Progress inside the building. Drywall installation is nearing completion and is complete, I would say, through 90% of the building. Drywall finishing is complete in probably 50% of the building. They've moved over to the east half of the building. If you were to walk through the building today, the entire pre-function hallway is painted, and probably a third of the ballroom is painting. It's underway now. Back of house painting is all complete. So probably the end of next week, ballroom will be completely painted, and drywall finishing will be wrapping up on the east half, and painting activities will move in that direction. I mentioned the connector, structural steel, that will be completed today. Aluminum linear soffit, so this is a wood grain soffit on the bottom side of canopies. That work is complete. I've got some photos of that you'll see in a minute. Sign foundations, so two signs for the convention center. The foundations are installed and the support steel is in place. We've poured retaining walls, parking garage stairs, dumpster enclosures, really in and around both the parking garage and the convention center. All that work is now complete. And the limestone sign wall, which is the linear wall kind of a short wall in front of the main entrance. All that work is complete as well. Moving on to the parking garage. Last week, poured our last concrete slab in the parking garage, so that's a milestone of sorts. Glass installation at the corner of 9th and Cherry, so the northeast corner of the parking garage, all that glass is installed, and that crew has moved over to the southwest corner of the parking garage to install the glass in that area. Some upcoming work, as I mentioned, completing drywall finishing on the east half of the building, complete the interior painting in the ballroom. Next week, we plan to install ceiling grid in the pre-function and ballroom areas. So ceiling grid, like we have above us, that'll allow for lights and HVAC diffusers to be installed following that. Connector roof decking and exterior wall framing. So over the next month, you'll see this connector really start to take shape with exterior framing and roof decking to really start bringing that together. Metal panel installation, I believe those arrive the last week of September, and that's really the last exterior facade material that we're missing. So if you were to drive around today, you'll see little bands of blue substrate. That is where the metal panels go, and those materials are arriving later this month. The roof coping, so this caps the roof along the upper edge. It arrived yesterday, and crews are there today beginning that installation. We're waiting on our last shipment of limestone, which I think comes the 25th. That limestone goes on the sign foundation. There's some planter walls and really just kind of miscellaneous areas outside the building where that limestone will get installed. I mentioned exterior hardscape curb and sidewalks along Wabash Avenue. We've removed the fence along Wabash, and we've got safety barrels there now, and that curb will start going in this week, which will allow the sidewalks to then take place. Last item on the convention center, cooler and freezer. That arrives, I believe, September 21st in the kitchen for installation. So some work in the kitchen is going to start happening here in the upcoming months. Parking garage, we're pouring some curb islands right at the main entrance. So as you pull in, these islands protect the parking garage equipment. That's where they will sit. Those are being poured today. We'll also start installing pipe bollards to protect certain areas of the structure, and then we'll complete the glass installation on that southwest corner. Picture time. So this is a photo from the webcam. You can see work along Wabash Avenue taking place. Another shot along Wabash. Right in the foreground to the right side, you can see a piece of that limestone wall. Here's another shot of it. It kind of protects that front entrance, and that will receive lettering that says Terre Haute Convention Center along the front of it. To the very right of the picture, you can see that post sticking up. That is the structure for the signage. So there'll be a pillar sign that goes around that pipe there. You can also see on the bottom side of the canopy overhanging there, the wood grain aluminum soffit. And I think we've got a better photo of that coming up. This is the east elevation, so looking from the parking garage, copper bars to your left, all the exterior materials there are done. If you look right along the upper edge of the building, that blue band is where the metal panel installation will be taking place later this month. Shot really of the north elevation, again taken from the parking garage. This is the ballroom, so you can see on the walls paint being installed. Also hard to see, but the bulkheads or soffits above have also received paint. So that work is is very much underway. This is the pre-function area, so parallel to Wabash Avenue. You can see the ceiling area, that's what will receive the ceiling grid come next week. A lot of progress in kind of the main hallway here. Recently installed the drywall up on that ceiling within the skylights and really throughout the area. So it's that area's really started to take shape. They're in there now doing drywall finishing work. Main entry, you can see the storefront. Everything's installed except for the sliding doors that go in that opening. This is the connector. Again, that will really start taking shape here in the next week or two. You can see the sign wall on the front. This is a close-up. So this is the rear canopy that kind of spans the area between the convention center and the parking garage to protect pedestrians from weather. You can see that soffit closely there. This is the glass and glazing on the parking garage. So this is at the corner of 9th and Cherry. That work is complete. This, you can see some masonry walls kind of in the background. That's the dumpster enclosure. Also, those retaining walls have recently been poured to accommodate grade change between really our project and existing conditions. These are the planters that are alongside the parking garage. So the upper part of those will receive limestone. The lower part grade comes up to that level. So those will be a nice pedestrian area with planting available along there. I know I've shown you guys a million pictures of the parking garage slab, but this is the final piece. This is the slab on grade. So this is sitting on dirt, poured, saw cut, ready to go. That's it. Be happy to take a stab at any questions anyone might have.
Brent, do you have any idea what type of material you're going to use for the actual sign? I mean, for the lettering? Is that going to be a plastic? Is that metal?
I'd love to answer it, but I
discussion?
don't know. Nations
Okay.
Group procured the signage package. I know we've got the shop drawings, but I haven't studied it.
Okay.
Yeah, I really don't know. And I'll tell you, there's a variety of signage on the building. You've got the signage on that masonry wall that I showed you. There's some signage up on the roof level. Signage there. There's also that pillar sign. There's some sign that hangs from that canopy on the, might have a shot of that actually.
Well, in fact, you answered my next question.
Okay.
Is it all going to be the same material?
Yeah,
So,
it's- I think the variety of different types and structures and materials, so I think it'll be interesting.
Brian, do you have an ETA on when the concrete sidewalks will be finished in front of the building and around the Copper Bar area?
Well, I told Dave, if they're not done by the end of the month, I'm gonna have John Hanley in a headlock, so that's my goal, is end of the month. You had mentioned, wanting to have, some sort of event. We'll do everything in our power to make that happen. I will caution you, though, I think whatever concrete's there is gonna be rather green,
Fresh.
so I don't know that we wanna put a heavy load on it, but we can definitely make accommodations, along the street and do whatever you need to make that event happen. Strike that John Hanley comment from the record, would you please?
Too late. He's texting already.
Is he? Good. Anything else?
no, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Brian. All right, item 5.2 on our agenda is a Update on Convention Center management, Tania Warner, Spectra.
Good morning.
Would you introduce your, oh, that,
Yep.
sorry.
So I just wanted to introduce everyone to Brady Kearns, who is our new Director of Operations, and give Brady a moment to just kind of tell you a little bit about himself.
Hello, folks. I'm a native of Terre Haute, Indiana. Went Center Street Nursery School all the way to Terre Haute North, as well as a graduate of ISU. 17 years at Indiana State University with Homeland Center and Tilson Auditorium facilities. So I've probably seen you in those facilities at some point in time. I know I've seen Mayor Bennett many times in Tilson Auditorium. So it's a pleasure to be on board. Thank you.
Good to have you.
So just a little update as to what we're working on right now. I'm currently almost at the end of all of our sales manager applications and the interview process with those. Director of Finance is still open, and I'm getting ready to start that interview process here in the probably in the next week or so. Brady has been working diligently going through our FF&E now that he's on board with the operations side of that, really going through the items and looking at what do we need, what can he find better pricing for, and really just going through and shopping that. I'm in the process of setting up our booking system. I have moved our calendar from May 1st to April 1st so that we've got an extra month to start selling. As far as community involvement, I've met with a lot of the hotels in the recent weeks and really talked about when are their peak times, what are their average rates, how many room blocks do they typically give out, so that I kind of have an understanding of what their facilities can offer. So when we're looking at group business, where the best fit's going to be. I've also been working on a template so that when we need bids from the hotels, we can get more of a unified look that comes back from the hotels. So something that we can send to meeting planners that has all of the hotels. It kind of looks very similar, just a nice package from Terre Haute, creating more of a destination. I have been reaching out to local and regional coffee roasters. Anytime that we have the ability to offer local or regional items in the convention center, we want to try to find those vendors. So I'm trying to get pricing on what it would cost for local roast so that we could offer something in the convention center that is more Indiana specific rather than a national like Starbucks type brand. So I'm working on trying to find some of that information locally. Had a great meeting with President Curtis at ISU along with Greg Good, Diane McKee, and Nancy Rogers. We talked a lot about what we're looking for in terms of business to bring to the convention center and how we can utilize both properties to find more business and bring more and work together. So we had a really, really great meeting, and they've been sharing a lot of information with me. So it's very positive, and I feel really good about our future and working together. As far as business, we're still at where we were when I reported last month. I've got 5 events on our calendar with about $250,000 in potential revenue, close to 2,000 room nights associated. Have a couple more proposals from the past week that I've had some inquiries that I'll start working on this week as well. So that's where we are in the convention center front. Any questions? Sure.
So we have Brady, and then you're also hiring for a sales manager and director of finance. Are there other positions that you'll also be hiring for?
Yes.
Do you know how many employees that will entail?
So we'll roughly have about 10 to 12 full-time employees, and most of those employees will come on a little closer as the building opens. The sales manager will start selling pretty immediately. Director of finance will really help us start handling most of our billing and everything ourselves and start getting all of our human resources and such set up. The next position that we will open up will most likely be our food and beverage director position. That'll be probably around 5 months before we open. And then after that person comes on board, they'll start looking for our chef, which will probably bring on about a month before we actually open. We will have 2 event managers that we will be hiring. Typically, we want them to start at least 60 days before we have events taking place so that they can start detailing events and really start working with the clients. We'll have an operations manager that will probably come on board right around March 1st, right as we're starting to get in the building, start unboxing things so that they can start putting items together, putting things up, because we'll have a lot to do. And then we'll have a banquet manager that will also come on probably around March 1st as well to start with that unboxing. And then there's a lot of staff training that will be taking place during that time frame too, and hiring of our part-time employees. I do have a org chart that I can share with you guys as well, if you're interested in seeing that. Yep.
Tennille, we had a board meeting yesterday, and I shared your template. Everybody just thought that was great, so.
Okay, good.
Hats off, yeah, that was a great job.
Okay. Yeah, so whatever they want to go in that, I'm happy to include any photos. I'll leave everything editable for them so that they
Yeah.
can put in whatever content they want, but I'm happy to change the layout and all that.
Well, I'm gonna make contact with them and then tell them that you'll be making contact with them, and
Perfect.
that way, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
doing that. I appreciate it.
Anyone else?
Okay.
Thank you, Tennille.
All right, thank you.
Item 5.3 on our agenda is an update on the Larry Bird Museum design with Todd Schaefer of the Nations Group. Morning, Todd.
Morning, John, members of the board. Todd Schaefer with Nations Group, your owner's representative for the project. I'd like to introduce Alex Ortiz, joined our firm, Vice President of Construction Services.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. Nice to meet everyone. Alex Ortiz, just joined Nations Group about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. About 20 years experience in the construction industry. Owner's rep for Icon Venue Group before joining over the most recent projects, working with the University of Texas, and Group, New Arena, in Texas, and a little closer to home here, the Chicago Cubs renovation project executive for Field. Happy to join the group and help out where I can. Thanks.
So going from baseball back to basketball, update on the Larry Bird Museum is, I know the museum committees had a lot of robust conversation about the concept plan, and Shelby will give us an update on the memorabilia cataloging, but we're just looking for a unified consent on the concept plan that was presented about a month or so ago, with any comments or approved as submitted. So hopefully you guys will get some resolution here and get us an answer here the next week or so, and we can have Hilferty prepare to get the exhibit proposal together and then move forward with getting the cataloging from Shelley. So that's where we're at with the museum design. We're ready to move forward with the exhibit design.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
5.4, update on the equipment purchases. Once again, Mr.
Still
Schaefer.
here. I know we've been a few months talking about updates on furniture and parking equipment. We've been very productive in those months. We've actually contracted with Signature Controls for the parking equipment for $165,010. That is less than what we came to the board with at $205,000. So we have had significant savings. We've also worked diligently with Spectra to get them the system that they wanted to be the most efficient and best operating system for that parking garage for this area. And our company Signature was able to provide us a good price on that, better than what they originally quoted. And which in this market right now, that's a good thing to happen. So that contract will be coming through. I believe you'll review that. On furniture, we need one more month. Tennille's been working on the table and chair package with the company direct. They're able to provide their discount through CSO. So we're working on getting that finalized if we're going to go through CSO or go direct, working again with legal counsel and the best way to procure that. There'll be some savings on that from the original furniture proposal as well. Since you asked Brian a question about signage, the exterior signage letters on that wall will be aluminum pin-mounted letters. I believe they're uplit from the planter bed. Next month, if you like, we can bring the signage package again and do a brief presentation, just to, I mean, that was procured 3 months ago, just remind everyone what that looks like, since the building's starting to take shape, and it's a good time to look at that, become familiar with it, and just for everyone to know what that's going to look like, and keep moving forward.
We like savings.
Good. We know you do. That's why we keep working on it.
All right. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we'll have an update on our project budget. Jason Simler of Baker Tilly. Morning.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. Jason Simler, Baker Tilly. I believe yesterday you received an updated budget report. You'll probably notice that it's a little bit different from last month. Working with Nations Group and the Finance Committee, we've tweaked it a little bit, and I think by April, when the project's done, I think we'll perfect this report. So, but just a couple of highlights, a couple of changes that I did want to point out. We did add one column new. It's kind of the second column over the budget adjustments. One thing that working with Nations Group, we did adjust the, if you look at the first line there, the design service budget. We decreased that by $100,000, which added that to contingencies. Something else, I guess, just kind of go over into the, as you go over to the right, you have the adjusted budget that you see, which again has not changed from the original budget that we created a few years ago. You have your current contract costs, and then you can see your over under budget. So looking at the total project cost that we started with, we're really about $165,000 under budget based upon current contract cost. And then you can see we've added a couple extra line items. They were there last month, but we kind of put them kind of below the line because they were kind of costs that were above and beyond the original scope. And that's some additional FF&E costs or equipment that Spectra is requesting or is said is needed for the opening of the facility. And then also some additional cameras for the parking garage for the $75,000 that we're showing there as an estimated cost. So even with those costs, it shows that we're about $23,000 over our original budget. But as we talked about last month, with the food and beverage that you're receiving each month, that you have more than enough to cover those additional costs. And last month, or I guess this month, still a very strong showing in collections, almost $240,000 in receipts in food and beverage. So that's still coming in very strong for the board. Continue going to the right, you see costs paid to date, about $22.9 million, which leaves just under $12 million of costs remain to be paid based upon the current budget. So I'd be happy to answer any questions we have.
So what's our overall contingency that's left?
If you look there, it's about $52,000, kind of underneath the adjusted budget, towards the bottom.
It'll be gone then once the other unbudgeted items are in there?
Well, I've kind of looked at the unbudgeted they're kind of outside the scope. Yeah. I have combined them together, so it's kind of a combined total. But if you don't use the contingency, then you can use the cash on hand for that.
But it does not include the contingency for Garmont, correct?
Correct. Yeah, Garmont there's about $311,000 of construction contingencies and allowances remaining, and the guaranteed maximum price there. So, we're trying not to touch those, but hopefully that will be left over at the end of the construction, and that can actually help pay for some of those items below the line.
And for members of the board that are wondering about the cameras, the camera package originally was just the ingress, egress areas around the parking garage, the pay booths, and things like that. Talking to President Marvel, we discussed putting cameras everywhere in the parking garage on all floors, just for liability purposes. So that's where you're seeing the $75,000 increase.
Does the board have any other questions?
the security cameras, though, within the convention center are included in the budget.
Yes.
Yep. It's back to my law enforcement experience. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to have just cameras on people coming and going. When you have somebody who has their car broken into or, damage to the car, we need to have a record of that as well. Chris and I and the mayor talked about it and thought that was the best way to do it. And we do have some savings that we can dip into. And Steve, you have any? We'll have an update now on the memorabilia cataloging with Shelley Key. Good morning, Shelley.
Good morning. I know that there had been previous discussion in regards to relocating the bulk of the collection to a site closer to the actual convention center and museum site to allow easier access for me to actually begin the cataloging process. I'm pleased to say that that site has been designated. There are a few modifications that are being made right now for security reasons in order to make sure it's a little bit more secure. That should be completed within the next week and a half, 2 weeks. Once that is completed, then we will relocate the bulk of the collection over there and actually start the cataloging process. I'm excited that it's moving forward.
That's good.
Any questions? Anything I can answer for anyone? Anyone?
Shelley was able to take, I asked her to get some pictures of what the memorabilia consisted of, and if the board would like to see, she took several pictures of what she's dealing with up there, so.
And those pictures are just from the one location site right now. They're by allowing us to relocate that and put it into a more secure location, as other items are collected, they can all be housed in one single location. So it'll make it so much easier and smoother to begin that catalog process and to be able to get it done a little bit more swiftly than having to go from location to location to location. It keeps it all in one house, and it is in close proximity to the new site itself too, so it's just going to make things move a little bit more swiftly than what they were moving before.
Shelley, would you mind forwarding these pictures to
Sure.
the board?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any questions?
Just glad we're moving forward.
As am I. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Last item under old business will be an update on legal matters. Brian Bosma. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning, President Marvel and the board. It's good to see you all in person. It's been a little while for me, so it feels like a homecoming almost. So I have to just sit here and reflect for a moment. The first meeting that actually, prior to the first meeting, before I was engaged and I met with several of the board members, this was all just a concept, and it wasn't a very well set out concept. And to sit here and hear the reports that we're going to be open for business in March. It's honestly, you've done a great job, and I know it's not been because I get the phone calls. I know it's not been without its concerns and issues, but I really do want to commend you all because I have to tell you, I wasn't sure it was going to happen when I first started working with you all, and you've done a great job of making it so. So you should be proud of that. Had a number of items that I'll just report briefly. We issued this morning the exclusive bank sponsorship request for proposals. About 6:50 this morning, I emailed it to all of you if you want to take a look at it. It's in Mr. Bramble's possession as well, and in addition, I need to get it to Spectra. I'm sorry, didn't do that to Neil, so I'll be sure that you have a copy of it also. So the responses will come to Spectra and myself, and we'll present, hopefully, to you a recommendation for an exclusive bank sponsor. That entity will have some marketing opportunities and visual opportunities, both at the convention center, including an ATM machine, and also on your website. And then these were things that Spectra had suggested, all of these items. And then we'll also serve as the depository of the operating account. I'm going to talk about that for a moment because I've had several questions from a couple of you and the auditor and others. So just go over how that operating account will work under Spectra's operating agreement. So on a monthly basis, you have a budget now that perhaps isn't approved yet by the county, but will be hopefully. And on a monthly basis, Spectra will submit to you all their monthly budget estimate. You will deposit into the operating account, which will be with our exclusive bank sponsor, the monthly expenses for the next month. And then Spectra will have access to that account. You all won't be, and the auditor won't be paying the bills. Spectra will be. That will give accounting of that every month. So the finance committee will see both the request and the accounting on a monthly basis. And you'll never deposit, I shouldn't say never, you will likely not ever deposit more than 1 month's expenses. So it's a little unusual that a private entity has access to public funds, but it's on a month-to-month basis and in accordance with their agreement and with full accountability on it. So that's how that will operate after we get to the March 1 position. Just a couple of things to note. We are putting together, and it's a little complicated, a purchasing policy that will come to you all that Spectra will also see first to determine when they can spend something outside of the budget, a capital improvement. What do they have the authority to do? What will you all have to approve? We'll put something together to be sure the finance committee sees it first and then bring it to the board to be sure that you're all comfortable with it, so that as operations happen, it's not a month-to-month, hey, how do we do this? Try to get some policies in place. So that will be coming in the near future. We're also in the process of trademarking your logo, which you approved at the last or prior meeting with state trademark authorities. We have reviewed and submitted back to Spectra sort of their standard contracts that they'll be using as they operate the facility and the access for folks to do so. At your request, I don't have it today, sorry, we were asked to outline the manager's responsibilities, and probably good for all of us to go through that. It's a very long contract with a lot of attachments, so we'll put together an outline, be sure Spectra has it, and we'll catch whatever you might not have done that you should have, and perhaps what they might not yet have gotten to, and then what their responsibilities are in the future. You do have a copy. I don't see any of you with your well thought out and oh, thank you very much. I see one of your notebooks that has the contract in it for your reference, and we'll submit to you electronically the outline so you can put it in there and refer to it as well. We had a Access to Public Records Act request that we completed this past Friday from a vendor that was not selected for something, and I contacted a few of you on that were on the selection committee to see. They asked for extensive communications, et cetera, and we completed that, and they were very happy that we completed it last week. I think they thought we were slow walking them. Still have one item on my list that's not yet completed. I'm going to talk to Mr. Croyster about it, and we have some easement issues still for access around the convention center with Hilton Gardens and the state office building property. Still have to get those sorted out. Everybody's going to be on the same page on it. It just is a matter of getting it documented. And I believe that is where we are at this point. So happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I would have a question back to the checkbook.
Yes.
this is kind of unusual, and State Board of Accounts approves it to do this way?
Yeah, so Doug Kowalski that is subbed for me a couple of times, newer attorney with our firm, not a new attorney, but new to us, came from the State Board of Accounts and has run this through the traps. I can tell you that there are a couple of questions about it because it is unusual, but it doesn't, it appears that the State Board is fine with it. So there may be a question in the future, and we'll work through it with them. The only other alternative would be for the auditor to be writing payroll checks and utility checks, et cetera. I don't think that would be a very good use of all y'all's time, public employees, but there's accountability here. First of all, their contract provides complete accountability for the State Board of Accounts, Department of Local Government Finance, to audit it. The account will be in the CIB's name. So they will just have access to it and be the check writer essentially on it with monthly accountability to the Finance Committee.
Well, I know Jim was concerned about it, that he would have to hire another one.
He's asked me 5 times, and I've given the same answer. That's why I'm giving it publicly now, so that it's on a recording that somebody can say, what do we do on that? And they can go back and look again. So, yeah, employees are all Spectra's. Expenses will be paid by Spectra, and we'll work out. There may be some details that we have to work out on that still, but we'll get there. And Tennille's been great to work with, as has Dave Anderson. So we'll get there and be sure that you all know the story.
Brian, do we have any, I believe Chris has asked this before, about any easements that are still being handled? Have all those been settled?
They have not yet. So there are several that I would like to have and several that we need to have. We discovered that's the other thing. You didn't own you didn't own 2 feet of property when I started on all this either. You were planning to build something on land that you did not own. So we took care of all that, but in that process, we discovered that there were some faulty easements. I shouldn't say faulty, ineffective easements that were granted years ago in the alleyway to the west of the state office building. And in fact, the alley, vacated alley that goes from the convention center west behind the Hilton Garden Inn, I think, to 7th Street there, isn't it 7th Street? That's in the wrong place. It goes through the middle of the Hilton Garden Inn's north parking lot, not the middle, but the portion. Doesn't follow the actual roadway there. So these will all be resolved, and frankly, you probably have a common law access claim to it now, but we want to get it documented properly, so we'll get that taken care of. Thank you.
Any other questions? Emily? Thank you. All right, moving along, item number 6, new business. Any new business to bring before the board? Hearing none. Number 7, other business.
I want to let the board know that I did go before the Finance Committee of the Vigo County Council. No questions asked. It was pretty cut and dry. Everything went well. And the first hearing of our budget was last night. Is that correct in saying that, Jim? So it looks like we are smooth sailing through the budget, so without any issues.
When do they vote on it?
Good question.
Okay.
October, yeah. Sometime October.
12th?
Mr. President, can I ask one question?
Sure.
Given the accelerated completion date and the fact that we had an 8-month operating budget, I think that was proposed, do we need to worry about a 9-month operating budget, or is it covered in the amounts for the 8 months? We can always go back for an additional appropriation if necessary.
Yeah, I think it should be okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, any other business to bring up? Our next regular board meeting will be October the 20th, 2021 at 9 o'clock. Hearing no other business to be brought up, we are adjourned.
Be sure.